Good morning, everybody. It's Claudia from Hugo Coffee Roasters. It's been a while. I'm so happy to be here again with you. Today, I am so happy to introduce everybody to my friend Megan Morrison, and because we're talking about the topic of fostering. And Megan is a foster mom extraordinaire. So I wanted to introduce Megan to everybody, and we wanted to talk about the topic of fostering cats and dogs, how important it is in the world of animal rescue, why people do it, and what the benefits are both for the animal as well as for the foster parent to foster a cat and dog or dog in need. So, Megan, welcome to the Hugo live stream.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about the organization that you work with, and in what capacity do you work with the organization?
I work for Utah Animal Advocacy Foundation, UAAF, and I am a foster and also a coordinator. So I do foster my own animals, and I focus also on helping the dogs find homes. So I do interviews with potential adopters, meet and greets, go through a lot of help learn the adoption events, things like that.
And at any given time, or even for example, like right now, how many cats and dogs do you have at UAAF?
UAAF.
UAAF. How many cats and dogs do you have available for fostering and or adopting at right now, for example?
Right now we have, I think, probably 60 or 70 cats and dogs in the program. Like we were talking about earlier, people always think of dogs when they think of fostering, but there's tons of cats too, and always kittens. We're coming up on kitten season. So we have a ton of volunteers who have given over their half bath to just be a kitten sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we usually have about 60 or 70 going at a time.
Is that typical, or is that a lot?
This is pretty typical, although I will say, last year was so strange, and luckily so many people were home that we did have a whole bunch of new people step up to foster and adopt, which is really cool. So we're kind of trying to keep that trend going.
So is there currently a foster need?
Absolutely.
That many cats and dogs available, there must be a huge foster need at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. Because the ones that we have in our program are ones that have been pulled from the shelter and are now in the safety of a foster home. Mm-hmm. But, what's a little bit sad is that after such a big spike in adoptions, there's often a big spike in turnover or, strays or owner surrenders. And so now we're kind of seeing that second wave of Christmas puppies and things like that, that we always need fosters for. The shelters are always calling to, they're always full, and they always find dogs that would do so much better in a foster home. So yes, there's such a need for that right now.
So we were talking before we got online, we were talking about the difference between, I think a lot of people don't realize that animal rescues come in a lot of different forms. Mm-hmm. And many, many animal rescues that do tremendous work and tremendous good do not have a brick and mortar presence or brick and mortar shelter for where animals that are pulled from kill shelters or just shelters and put into the system, into the animal rescue system, that they don't have a brick and mortar presence where the animals can stay. And if that's the case, then the animal rescue has to resort to a network of foster parenting in order to, because animals get pulled from the shelters and then they go into a foster system rather than into a brick and mortar shelter.
Exactly.
And that it's more typical than not. It's the foster system is how so many animals in our country get rescued and adopted out.
Exactly, because when people think about dog adoption, you think about, first you think about walking through that long line at the shelter, the cages on either side, or you do think about something like Nuzzles or like Best Friends that has a huge facility set up. But a lot of rescues that have so much heart and do so much good just simply don't have the overhead. And so what we do have is people luckily opening their homes. And so when people do say to us oh, when can I come and meet, 5 dogs in a row? Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, they are in foster homes. We have to do the one-on-one meets. But the amazing thing about fostering is that you don't get that long line of dogs in cages on either side that you don't know a whole lot about. They're stressed, they're scared, they're not showing you their best side. A couple weeks in a foster home to find out that they don't like cats, or they love kids, or they would be a great lap dog, makes such a better fit for the eventual adoption because we know so much more about the animals.
Ah, yes. It's probably just a little less efficient to adopt out a lot of cats and dogs. If you don't have a facility to go walk up and down and meet the dogs and meet the cats.
It is absolutely, like, you aren't going to be able to meet 10 a day, but we really think it really helps the adoption stick, because you know, if you come to us and you're a marathon runner, you know, we're not going to give you like a senior dog. So it helps us make sure that the home is going to be the right home. So it's a little less efficient, but we think that, you know, the return rate is better if you're going to talk just numbers.
Yes. And also the amount of coordination must be extraordinary.
There's a lot of time on the phone.
Constantly talking to shelters, organizing fosters. Now, do you have in your organization, does somebody come get the animal from the shelter and then bring it to a foster, or does the shelter call you, for example, as a coordinator, and you go, oh, okay, there is a yellow lab, 2 years old, male, unneutered, at this shelter. We need to pull him today. And then you get on the phone with potential fosters who might like a dog like that?
Yep, almost exactly. Because one of the things that we never do is to force fosters on somebody. Sometimes your house is just full. And so we do have a system where we kind of would put out a call like that. That's pretty typical what you said. And just say, who can raise their hand for this dog? And then we won't pull a dog until we have a home for it. But luckily, you know, we've got a great group, so we can almost always find a foster, but we do need more right now.
And how many foster parents do you have in your system that you right now feel like, oh, I could just call the following 20 people?
Let's see, probably in our system, which is, you know, all the people that we've built up since 2002, we probably have 200 or 300 fosters. Okay. We probably have 30 or 40 active at any given time.
Okay.
And then, you know, we've got our like old faithful people who we can call and say, please, 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 could you just squeeze one more? And they can. Sure. I mean, the good news is you're dealing with animal lovers, so everyone is always kind of is trying to help, obviously, which is great.
Right, right. Now, how many do you need? How many more foster parents do you think your organization needs right now?
We will take as many as we can get. Like I said, once you're approved to foster and you see, we put up a dog and say, you know, West Valley called and they need to get this Chihuahua out. A lot of times they'll call us for the dogs that are great, and cats. I'm sorry, I foster dogs, so I always skew that way. Dogs and cats who they can see is a great dog or cat, but they're just not doing well in a shelter environment. And the shelter knows they'd have such a better chance of blossoming in foster home. Okay. So we get calls every day. And we just, anybody that can raise their hand and say, you know, I can take that cat into my home is a dog and cat that comes out of the shelter. It's an extra cage at the shelter. It's a whole long line of animals that you're helping just by taking that one into your home. And what are you looking for in a foster parent? When you say when somebody has to get approved to be a foster, what are you looking for? What standard does one have to meet? Probably patience, which is hard to put on an application. Yeah, but mostly you need a house that you don't mind cleaning up, a friendly landlord if you're renting, and just patience really is the thing that you need. As long as you have a happy home, you can be a foster. That's awesome. So if somebody wanted to be a foster today, what would they do to be a foster with your organization? Where would they go? How would they sign up? They could go to UAAF.org, which is in the chat. And there's a foster application there. You can read all about the rescue as well. UAAF specializes kind of in the animals of last resort. We take a lot of special needs animals. We take senior animals. The shelters kind of know to call us when other rescues have said, no, that animal's too expensive or too time consuming. They end up at UAAF. We do our very best to not say no, which isn't to say that you would ever get an animal that you weren't prepared for. Like I said, you have to raise your hand for a foster, but we have so many wonderful homes who are willing to take animals in wheelchairs or senior pets, things like that. And so you can certainly read a lot more on our website. And like I said, we can use all the fosters we can get right now. The application is there. You're more than welcome to say that you saw us here, and we'd love to hear from you guys. So tell everybody a little bit about what are the benefits to you, Megan, personally, about being an awesome foster parent. It's true. I am an awesome foster parent. How many dogs have you fostered, do you think? Probably over 20, I think. And I've kept 2, which is always a big question. Yeah. 2 foster fails, number 3 and number 7 I have kept. And honestly, like 2 is the right number of dogs for me. And so fostering for me means I get to hang out with and help so many more animals than I'd get to if I just had my own.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I am a foster failure.
Absolutely.
Like Hugo, I got Hugo at 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
he was the size of my hand. He was the size of my hand. And now he's 80 pounds of solid muscle. But he literally was the size of my hand, like bottle feeding. And like, there was no way I was giving up this adorable dog.
Of course.
Spent, 2 weeks up all night bottle feeding the dog. Forget about it. So I never did it again. I'm like straight up, rescuer. I just adopt. I go right from yes to yes.
I think I was a little bit safe because when I started fostering, I had a dog, one dog. So that kind of like need was met. But I knew when I said out loud, I'm thinking about fostering, that what I was saying was, are we about to get another dog?
Yes.
It's what happens. But I have made it through. And what's fun is, like, I said to my friend the other day, it's like you probably would fall in love with every male model you go on a date with.
Yes.
But on day 2 or 3, maybe they're not like the right guy for you. And it's the thing is, like, I love every dog I foster, but sometimes I'm just like, your person is out there. And that's such a good feeling, is to just be a step on that way.
Yes, that's fantastic. What percentage of, so I think it's really interesting to talk about cat fostering, because like, I'm like you, like, I mean, I didn't foster much because I'm a big foster failure. I did it once and I failed. But I ran an animal rescue, right? I didn't.
Oh, I mean, come on.
I don't even think I realized. Well, because this is in my defense. In my defense, when I ran Friends of Animals, we had the facility, we had the ranch. It had just been built, so we had plenty of room for zillions of cats. So I don't recall we. By the way, we still had a foster system, because not every animal. If you get a puppy, like I got Hugo, even though there was a brick and mortar facility, I got Hugo because he was 3 weeks old. And he hadn't gotten his shots, and he needed to do, the following steps in order to get into a shelter, get into the rescue facility. But I don't think I even realized the need for cat foster. So I really want to highlight the need for cat foster, and that this now is really a time when you do cat fosters, because spring is when you get tons of kitties.
Exactly. We call it kitten season, and it's adorable but overwhelming. And you're right. Like, when people think about, like you said, adopting from a shelter, they think of that long line of cages. And when they think about cats, they think about a huge room full of cats. You get to go and you get to play with your cat. But there's cats that just don't do well in that environment. There's kittens, like when Hugo was young, who haven't had their shots, who aren't ready to like be moved into like that big environment. And with cats, especially, it takes them 10 days, 2 weeks to kind of even like poke their nose out and say hello to you. And so it's really hard to, bond and figure out their personality in a shelter environment. So we absolutely cat fosters, especially because people don't know about them.
Right. I think that is also such an interesting topic that had not occurred to me either. This is crazy. I'm like the mad dog animal rescuer. And I hadn't thought through that, when I was running Friends Animals and there were the dogs in the cage, in the cages, and we did everything in our power to keep them healthy and happy, and get them medical attention and get them adopted out and blah blah blah. But the environment of the rescue is in and of itself stressful.
It is. It's shelters and rescues absolutely save lives. Like, a dog that is in there is already having the best day of his life, right? Because it's being seen, it's getting its medical, it's getting whatever. The inconvenience for the dog is it's loud, it's stressful, it's echoey. There's a ton of people in and out. And it's harder with cats and with dogs to just really see like the personality of the animal. Right.
And I learned that with respect to dogs. Actually, I did foster another dog. I fostered Vincent. And Vincent was an elder pitty. And oh my God, I loved this dog. He was the sweetest dog. I would go to work and I would just hug and kiss on Vincent. It was the chillest dog ever.
I love it.
But he had been in the system way too long. And I was like, this dog needs a break from being at the ranch. So I'm going to take him home. So I took him home to Hugo, male pit bull, and to Ruby. And it didn't go well, like at all. Like, immediate dominance behavior occurred. What was more interesting was Vincent, who didn't even want to walk at the ranch, didn't even want to go for a walk, just wanted to sit and be kissed on, suddenly became this new dog. One, I got his teeth taken care of, so I had a lot of teeth pulled on the elder dog, and he, unbeknownst to us, he had been in a lot of pain. So once the pain was gone, he was a different dog. Then he's out of the shelter environment. He became a different dog. He was running. He could run like a mile behind, you know, he was having the time of his life. And but for the dominance issue between the two pitties, I probably would have been a foster failure twice over. But it was,
see, that's exactly it. He was a new dog, and you learned something about him, which is that he needed to go to a home with not a dominant dog.
And I also learned such a lesson that you need the patience as a new adopter too, fosters and adopters. Like, you need patience when you pull a dog from an environment of stress, like you'll find in a rescue or in a shelter. You need to give that animal a chance to become the animal they were meant to be.
Exactly. And I call our fosters sometimes like the crash land zone, because the animal has been stressed, has been maybe from its home to a shelter, to the street, to the medical, back to the cage, and now in a house, and their little heads are spinning.
Yeah.
And I had a little dog called Petey. If you're old as me, and you remember Petey Pablo, the rapper, it was Petey Pablo.
If I'm as old as you.
Yes, you know.
Who are you talking to? Your mother.
Well, I had Petey Pablo, and I couldn't touch him for 7 days. He wore his harness and his leash because I couldn't get near him. And he growled at me for 7 days. And then on the 7th day, he just jumped up on the couch with me, and he was like, "You made the list." And then when I introduced him to his foster parents, they picked him up. He went home in their arms.
Oh.
And I was like, I put in 7 days of this dog trying to kill me. But the fosters absorb that. Yes. They get the dog back to normal, what normal is for that particular dog, and they kind of take away that stress, and they get them ready so that then the adopter has to have hopefully a lot less patience. They do the crash land, which is so important.
Yes, it's such a huge thing you and all your fellow fosters are doing for the health and well-being of these beautiful animals. And as an animal lover and a rescuer, I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything you do. I wish I could do it more and not constantly, fail. But I love the fact that you're all out there, and I hope that this is an opportunity for people to sign up to really take a chance and try to foster a dog or a cat and really change. I mean, you're really changing every one of those animals' lives just by fostering.
I hope so, and I think so. And we so appreciate, Hugo's such a watchword here. Hugo's such an ambassador for fostering, and Hugo Coffee is such a watchword here for the good that you can do in rescue. So I'm so glad you had me on. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to have had you on, Megan. It was so great to see you. I can't wait to see you again in person once we're post-pandemic.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you everyone for tuning in to our live stream to talk about the importance of foster care and fostering cats and dogs in the animal rescue world. So thanks for coming. Bye.